The new Prime Minister is eliminating the consumer carbon tax. After being sworn in on Friday, Mark Carney signed a Prime Ministerial directive instructing that the fuel charge be removed effective April 1st. It's a move Carney says would make a difference to Canadians who are struggling to make ends meet. But some experts say it won't translate to savings at the grocery store. Sylvain Charlebois is a Canadian professor and researcher of food distribution and policy at Dalhousie University and joins me now. Thanks for being here.
Well, thank you for having me.
So, Sylvain, will this stop food prices from rising?
No. The short answer is no. The issue here is that the carbon tax was not eliminated. What we're talking about is the so-called consumer carbon tax. And so for some elements of our economy, you'll see probably some differences at the pump maybe. Where prices will drop. But when it comes to food prices, the biggest challenge with the carbon tax is how the effect of the tax compounds throughout the supply chain from farmers to retail. And that has not been impacted at all with this new approach.
Okay, so maybe you can just take me through that a little bit. How does the carbon tax impact the cost of food right now along each step to when we finally pick it up at the grocery store?
Well, let's say a farmer actually spends $100,000 to operate his farm. Well, let's say that there's a tax applied on that. The farmer would probably get a rebate, or there are caveats to allow the farmer not to pay for that tax, but he still has to charge more. And there's a GST that applies on that tax as well. So that goes up to processing. Same thing happens there, and so on and so forth. So the $100,000 at Farmgate becomes $180,000 essentially. So wholesale prices, not retail, but wholesale prices are impacted by the policy. And so that's why we're seeing more pressure put on retail prices. And those are prices that we're seeing at the grocery store. So basically what it means for all of us is that the agri-food sector in Canada has become less competitive. And so grocers who are trying to keep prices as low as possible are kind of forced to import more food from abroad because food in Canada that is being produced is no longer as competitive.
Okay, well, right now we're also seeing a big push to buy Canadian because of those tariffs. Everyone's
right.
feeling a bit patriotic right now. Is that also going to have an impact at the stores? Will that drive prices up or down? What is that going to do?
Well, I don't know what's happening where you are, but in most parts of the country, we're seeing this complete de-Americanization of the grocery store, especially in central Canada, where a lot of people are just not buying American products, even if they're cheaper and if they are on sale. And so we're seeing new products from South Africa, Turkey, Chile, Mexico, Peru even. And so there are more countries playing a part, basically keeping prices as low as possible. Of course, there are Canadian options, but sometimes Canadian options are not as cheap. And so that's why grocers are actually importing from other sources right now.
I know here in the prairies, we have those bitter cold winters, so we have some struggles when it comes to growing
That's
opportunities.
Right. Yep.
What would it take to start to see prices to come down? What would we have to do?
Not much. I mean, we saw the CPI report today coming from Statistics Canada. We're seeing food inflation becoming an issue again. It's actually close to 2%. Now it jumped almost 1% in a month. So the GST holiday has come to an end. So we are expecting a bumpy March and April, unfortunately, because when you actually import food from outside the U.S., it will cost us more. And right now we're seeing a lot of prices being adjusted as a result. So unfortunately, you have to look for more deals, shop around, and Canadians have actually been way more aggressive discounting the last couple of years.
All right. Sylvain, thank you so much for your time.
Take care.